All right, it is March 9th, 2026. The time is 5:06 p.m. This is a Housing Authority, Silverton Housing Authority meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Robertson. Here. Mr. Chipman.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
George.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper.
Here.
Franklin.
Here. Great, thank you. Do we have any staff report revisions to the agenda?
Just the one that I made, adding number 7. I noticed that on Friday. But I don't have anything beyond that. So I did add agenda item 7, amending the appreciation cap for the annual townhomes affordability covenants.
Great. Any other board revisions? No. All right. We'll open up to public comment. We have nobody on Zoom and we have nobody in person. So I'm closing public comment. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the February 23rd, 2026 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Ooh.
Okay. All right, Ron. Oh, call please. Yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Gardner.
Yes.
Ms. George.
Yes.
Ms. Harper.
Yes.
Yes. All right, moving on to agenda item 5, resolution 2026-01, adopting the policy of participation in real estate development.
So this is the second draft of the policy on participation in real estate development. I took the direction from last meeting that this was discussed. And the direction I received was to change the term limit of the affordability from 15 years to 20 years. So we did that. And then there were a couple questions from the board that I posed to legal. We'll go over those in a second. And then in addition to all of that, New Communities Law reviewed the entire policy and added a couple things, clarified a couple things. Most notable was adding a minimum required deferred development fee of 25% in the instance that a developer is proposing a low-income housing tax credit project. The likelihood of this happening, that's low-income housing tax credit working in Silverton, is extremely low, but we just put it in there just in case. He increased the application fee from $3,000 to $5,000. I'm not going to argue with that. He thinks we can get away with it. And that's probably what we deserve, honestly, this work. And then he added an asset management fee. So this will be an annual fee of $3,000 in addition to the other fees that we've established. Big takeaway was that we should be wary of getting involved in private deals as a property manager. My understanding is that just increases our likelihood or our exposure to liability issues. And it often doesn't yield enough revenue or benefit to balance the risks. And that's specifically with another private entity, not necessarily when we are the property manager in something that we own entirely.
Mm-hmm.
He did not see a conflict of interest in the deals between the SHA board, since you all serve as a town board as well. He thinks it's actually a good thing that we're set up like this, so we can weigh the benefit of affordable housing versus the loss of tax revenue. In a deal where we're the 0.01% owner, we can be insulated from legal liability completely. If we want to have voting rights or if we want to be involved as a property manager, that's when our risk exposure significantly increases.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing in this policy prevents us from serving as property manager or serving as a higher ownership. These are all terms that'll be discussed on a per application basis. Your options this evening are to adopt the resolution that would adopt the policy, or you can give me direction to make changes and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Annie. Questions, comments, or suggested changes from the board?
On the property manager, first point here, so then who would hire, and then I would assume it would be hiring a separate property manager to manage.
Mhm.
Would that be on the town or the developer?
The developer.
Do you think, would there be a property manager in town? Looks it.
Potentially some of the real estate agents
Yeah.
who are already property managers.
Just like, was the scenario of like, well, we're not gonna manage the property and the developer's like, well, we can't find anyone, like,
Mhm.
let's. I don't know,
Yeah.
all circumstantial, but.
Hard to say.
I think it'll be interesting, what will be useful, I think, for the board is to kind of reassess. Obviously, this is like a set of policies and we don't know, it'll change depending on who comes to us and what kind of situation arises. And then we have a framework, but we can work out the nuance.
I will say I did send this to developers and GCs in town requesting comment and I received none tonight, so. There's nothing really to guide us here, so I think this is something we tried. So I think we'll just put it out there and see how it goes.
Yeah. Are there any suggested changes?
Oh, did you send it to, sorry, I'm forgetting their name, and then, okay, and they didn't comment at all? Weird.
Yeah, so we will see. Yeah, it's really just a policy to help us guide our analysis and our decision making, but it's in no way, shape, or form committing us to these deals. It just, creates structure and equity and process if the opportunity comes up.
Thanks for bringing that out. Anybody have any suggested changes? Changes? Okay, well, I'd entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2026-01, a resolution of the Housing Authority of the Town of Silverton adopting the policy on participation in real estate development.
So moved.
Second. All right, roll call please, Melina.
Mr. Halverson? Yes. Mr. Wakefield?
Yes.
Mr. Strickler?
Yes.
Turner? Yes. Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Thanks, Anne. All right, agenda item 6, this is written consent of the manager of Anvil Townhomes LLC designating board members to Anvil Townhomes Association Incorporated, adopting the association's 2026 budget and adopting the association's articles of incorporation. You have a fun job.
It's so fun. It is fun. So Housing Authority created Anvil Townhomes LLC to own the project to insulate the Housing Authority from legal and liability and financial risks. Anvil Townhomes LLC is the declarant for Anvil Townhomes Association, Inc., which is a nonprofit, which is the HOA for Anvil Townhomes. Tonight, you all, as the board, will, in the motion section of the memo, I should have flipped them. So first, we'll adopt the articles of incorporation, and then you will appoint the directors and officers and approve the 2026 budget of the Anvil Townhomes Association, Inc. Once the board is appointed of the HOA, we will execute the bylaws. And then as the units sell, the original board members will be replaced by owners. I am going to suggest that I am the director of the HOA. And then I'll stay on until 6 of the units have sold. And on the 6th sale, it will then be fully owner governed. The board can be me, it can be town staff, it can be any of you, it can be tributary development people. I honestly don't have a recommendation except for the fact that I will just need a signature today or tomorrow. But the first sale, I think we're gonna close not next, no. I hope we close next week. Yeah. So then we'll have one owner on board replace one of the board members and then so on. Tributary Development said that they would be happy to serve as the board with me, or Melina or Elizabeth are being voluntold.
I'd be the director, you're not gonna be the board.
Say that again?
Are you gonna be on the board or you're gonna be the director that,
The director is the president
okay, yeah, okay, thank you.
of the board.
Of directors. Of directors.
Yeah.
Director of the directors.
Director.
But you could totally put me as something else, but,
Nope, perfect.
okay.
And we need 3
Uh-huh.
officers minimum.
Mhm.
President, treasurer, secretary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's president treasurer. Yeah.
But they're
So you would
directors.
be
But the,
President.
It's a board of.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, that was confusing.
Right, so
All of this has been,
back from the board.
yeah, all of this has been prepared by New Communities Law.
Mhm.
And these aren't the final versions. You'll see there's blank dates
Mhm.
and stuff, but they all like happen at the same time, so it's good to. But yep, that's all I have.
I'm gonna ask this, but it's probably a stupid question because we've talked about it. And the reason why we have to have an HOA is because they're townhomes and they're connected, right?
Yeah, for insurance purposes and it makes sense.
Yeah.
I wish I had a stronger argument here,
Because
but
they're all connected
they're all connected.
if they were individual units potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we probably could have gotten away with like party wall agreements, but I think ultimately this was like a better level of
Mhm.
just oversight and preventative.
And HOAs are more common for getting insurance and just all those kinds of purposes.
Yeah.
Probably would create some challenges for the owners down the road of sort of like insurance and
Mhm.
It's like a
liability.
conventional structure for homes.
Yeah, and we did keep the HOA, like I want it to be as bare bones and as little least restrictive as possible. And without like sorry, without what's the word? Exposing to risk or,
Yeah.
balance of.
Yeah. And all buyers are aware that they get to serve on the HOA.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I'm a little bit worried that no one will want to do it. Just another thing, but
They have to.
They have,
yes, so they have to, okay,
oh, yeah, like
Okay.
when they're buying, they are
agreeing to it.
agreeing to be
Okay.
on the HOA.
Well, it's a good thing. I'd have thought, go, sorry.
And all of they're all very aware that they're doing this?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, and okay with it, and there's no like.
I mean, if they're not okay with it, they won't buy.
Yeah. What are the deal?
And
It's a shared roof, it's a shared wall, it's like.
Is there anything in the wording that will keep them from disbanding this?
I think they can.
They can't disband it?
I think
It's
so.
owner directed.
Yeah,
But once the board is full of homeowners, I mean, and they wanted to disband it, does that do, I mean,
that's up to them.
yeah.
Totally up to them. I think. Yeah, I think once folks realize that they have a say in how all of this works, they'll be more amenable to it.
See, Jim?
I was just gonna say, just,
holds those individuals more responsible for the actions of everyone in that group.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
a-
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any requested changes or comments on the articles of incorporation? Let's start there.
I'll make a motion to adopt the articles of incorporation for Anvil Townhomes Association Incorporated.
Jim seconded. All right, roll call please, Lena.
Trustee Robertson? Yes. Trustee Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
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 The word from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Appurtenant.
Great. Okay, so now we're talking about written consent of the manager of Anvil Townhomes LLC to appoint the directors and officers. And approve the 2026 budget of Anvil Townhomes. So we are the manager of Anvil Townhomes LLC. So we're approving written consent for us to appoint the directors. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Got it. Any volunteers? So
And she's the president.
we're gonna get buttons.
Yeah, I move to approve the written consent of the manager of Anvil Townhomes LLC to appoint the directors and officers and approve the 2026 budget of the Anvil Townhomes Association Inc.
Do we need to specify the three roles in that? Okay, so Ann, Chase, all right, so hold on, Carl.
Okay, yeah, so we actually
Ann Chase,
decide, sorry.
specify the actual officers. Okay, so Ann Chase is president. Jim, you were,
Your other options beyond Elizabeth and Melina are Lisa Seaman, Jack Jones and Scott Simmons, or you could say,
These are mostly placeholders until they're sold, so.
and those are the developers.
I would nominate the actual bosses in front of us. The ones that skipper the ship.
don't you want another secretary and treasurer?
Malia, you don't have to do both this time.
How does staff capacity feel for that?
Oh, yes.
Just signing a
That's fine.
paper and then.
Great.
We just have to sign.
Keeps consistency.
Yeah, yeah.
And cohesion.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Great.
People know who they are.
Yes, exactly.
And's the boss.
Okay, so now you can make your motion more specifically.
Okay.
Thanks.
I already struggled through the first time. Okay. Move to approve the written consent of the manager of Anvil Townhomes LLC to appoint the directors and officers to the following roles. Ann Chase is president. Elizabeth Stubbings as treasurer, Melina Marks as secretary. And approve the 2026 budget of the Anvil Townhomes Association Inc.
Second.
Great. Roll call, please.
Right, trustee Robertson?
Yes.
Trustee Wakefield?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Robertson? Yes. Trustee George?
Yes.
Trustee Pepper?
Yes.
Yes. Great. We are a small but mighty municipal housing authority.
We've started an LLC and we've also started an HOA.
The amount of paperwork and documentation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, now, moving on to agenda item 7, amending the appreciation cap for Anvil Townhomes affordability covenants.
So these covenants have already been adopted and recorded. So this would have to go, any amendment would have to go in front of the county commissioners on Wednesday. And I would want to do it as a blanket amendment to all of the Anvil Townhomes covenants before anyone buys them. And I'm really open at this point. The reason why I'm bringing this to you is because I have heard that the current appreciation cap of 1% annually compounding is too restrictive and doesn't justify investing in buying a home. And so the covenants that we have on 735 Martha Rose has a 3% simple. So this would be making it more consistent with that. And really, the whole idea behind appreciation caps is to preserve the affordability of these units. at the same time, we have invested so much money in these homes because we see the value in homeownership, and the value of homeownership is earning equity. And so we want our homeowners to succeed. I do believe that they would succeed with the 1% compounding. Like, they would earn something. And I put together a couple different models of what that would look like over 30 years. So the risk that we run with any appreciation cap is that at some point in time, if AMIs don't keep increasing, which I don't expect them to, but I don't know what that would look like. Like, I literally have no idea what will happen. They have been increasing pretty substantially every year for the past 3 years. But there may come a time where we need to either buy back down the sale price. So we would buy the house and then sell it at a lower price. Or we would amend or record a new affordability covenant with the owner, either increasing the AMI. I don't think this will happen for like minimum 30 to 40 years. So this is a ways out, but it is something to think about. What else did I want to bring up? These will be protected in perpetuity, so at no point is anyone going to realize like a ton of appreciation. And owners are never guaranteed the maximum resale price, so it's similar like private market. Like, you can ask whatever you want, like you could, and in the case of this, you could list your home at the maximum sale price, but there's a chance that no one would buy it.
These homes are not insulated from the effects of the housing market in general. Like, the owners are not guaranteed.
They are completely insulated.
Oh, these ones are.
Yeah.
They are guaranteed.
But it's
100%. I guess I mean,
they're insulated.
it crashed. What if the housing market crashed?
Right.
And prices, the 2008 housing market
Yeah.
crashed, right? And prices, the bottom fell out from under the floor. They are not guaranteed
Right.
a 1%.
Yeah.
There's still some risk in buying a home that value will not increase.
Yes.
We're just considering what the upper ceiling is. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. I was only thinking of the upper ceiling.
Yeah.
They are
As a homeowner of the other side of the,
totally
yeah,
acceptable to the bottom.
ask anybody who bought in 2008.
Yeah. So I'm proposing a 3% simple rate just to help get buyers more interested. They are already signing up for a lot of restrictions and stuff. We could, yeah. And, you know, we're bidding on a lot of properties.
Or do you see scenarios where if we were to change this interest rate, they would 6 months?
Potentially
Like, who gave that feedback?
a buyer,
Okay.
Potential buyer.
potential buyer. And then I did check in with the 2 that are under contract. I said, would you be okay with changing it to 3%?
I hope so.
Absolutely. I said, that is what I thought.
If they did it, then you would.
I think that's a great idea. I think anyone embarking on homeownership, even with being affordable, we like to think there's some, if you do have
Yeah.
to sell down the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like, I want to challenge the narrative that these are free cards. These are still significant investment.
Yeah.
So like, if you're making an investment, you should also be entitled to some gain. You're also investing in risk.
You're investing in risk, yeah. I think what we've heard from the community in previous affordable housing efforts is the fear that, again, one owner gets a significant windfall from like the public investment of money. And so I think we're protecting against that. And so it's really just kind of board preference on how much gain do you think people potential to.
I think the way this is structured, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Like, I know why they're concerned from some of, I think, the previous builds, but yeah, I don't think 3% is providing a windfall for anybody.
Yeah.
I think consistency with Martha Rose too,
Mhm.
makes sense.
You explain what the 0 to 3% thing that this person from Avon was talking about? It's a couple times mentioned in this email, like 1 to 3 or 0 to 3% as simple rate. What would be like, if we have a variable rate, what drives the variation?
My understanding is that, so they have a buy down program. So say a house is listed at 800,000. City of Avon has put in like $200,000, so then the sale price is actually 600, and then they cap it at 600. And in that instance, they would consider putting 0% appreciation because they technically just got $200,000 in down payment assistance.
Okay, so that it just depends on the terms of each individual transaction.
Yeah, so that's like called like a buy down program. But my understanding is that when they like do for sale products that they create, that they're not buying down, it's typically like 3%. It could be 2%. So that's an option for tonight too.
And what we're saying is the match, the percentage is specifying the maximum appreciation that could potentially be realized. But again, the market will only bear what the price is too. So we're just saying, you seller cannot list this house for more than the 3% appreciation or the 1% compounding. But you may not get it at that rate.
Yeah.
It may have only appreciated 1% and
Like we have a permitted capital improvements project so that people are still incentivized to make necessary repairs and upgrades.
Yeah.
But it's not saying like, go ahead and install like a jacuzzi and a steam room and like, you know?
Yeah.
So, they could have that 3% appreciation and also the value of their permitted capital improvements that's subject to, it's a blank in my head.
like approval.
Yeah, and it also, the improvements also depreciate. I forget what the index is called. There's a specific rate for depreciation that would be applied. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If in 20 years, someone updates their kitchen, they can realize that value of now not having a 20-year-old kitchen, but having a brand new kitchen. And that can factor sell price if then they turn around and sell.
Consumer price index. And so
Hearing support for the 3%.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that's interested in kind of saying, no, we should do the 1% compounding?
I'm good with 3.
Yeah.
when I present this, oh, go ahead, Jim.
No, I was gonna, it says in here, you're gonna present this. Have you received any feedback through conversations with the county?
No, that was a perfect segue to my question. When I go to the county, what do you all want me to say?
Housing Authority Board recommends it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say that. That's
One thing.
They should take our recommendation though.
Wouldn't they have set the 3% on Martha Rose?
They did.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. I think saying we're aligning it
Yeah.
with Martha Rose to be standard, and we recognize that there's also potential to sell these homes faster. We don't think.
Great. The reason behind the 1% compounding was just to help push back that future like point where it might no longer be affordable. That, but I feel totally comfortable with 3. Like, no matter what, that's always gonna be an issue, a potential issue. And yeah, we want our homeowners to be successful.
Yeah.
And we want this to be a successful project.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, we're balancing those near-term priorities with also the long-term plan.
Yeah.
I can't see it being super opposed to.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing direction to present an amended version of the Anvil Townhomes Affordability Covenants to the County Board of Commissioners with 3% association rate. Nice. Okay,
Okay, that is all I had for you this evening.
thank you, Anne. Any other questions for Anne? Okay, it's 5:36 and we'll adjourn the Silverton Housing Authority meeting. And in just 1 second, we'll get started on our regular. Thank you. All right, for those who wish, we'll do the full weekend.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The time is 5:40. It is March 9th, 2026, and I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Robinson? Here. Trustee Wakefield?
Here.
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 Here. Great. And do we have any staff or board revisions to the agenda?
One staff addition to the agenda under our presentations and proclamations, we have a certificate of recognition for Tyler and his many years of service.
Oh,
Interesting time.
Jim and I had it was an interesting start. He was here even before me. The first couple of years were something. So, but thank you guys. That's Not even my last day.
We couldn't let you just sneak out yet.
Does this mean I don't have to come back to the next meeting?
No. Statutorily, Tyler, you're till the 13th.
Thank you all.
So that'll be noted in the agenda. I do have a board revision to the agenda for the community and the staff and the board. I would add it under 7F, and that's a letter of resignation as the mayor for the town of Silverton. And I'm happy to read that under that agenda item. All right, we will now open up for public comment. I will note that we have 3 public hearings later. So if you are here to make a public comment about one of those agenda items, I would encourage you to save your public comment for then. So it'll be part of the public record. We will try to move through the agenda speedily. And again, if you're online and you'd like to make a public comment, you're welcome to click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist. But again, if your comment is related to any of the public hearings later, I encourage you to save your comment for then. So do we have any general public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Anything that staff wanted to note in the consent agenda or anything the board would like to pull out?
Got a new special event for St. Patrick's Day coming up. You'll see that in there, put on by Yvonne. Bevan is gonna participate in the parade as the leading leprechaun.
Oh.
Special event. Glad we have something on in town for St. Patrick's Day this year. Yeah, exciting.
Really exciting to see new energy around some new events. So we had the Ember Glow earlier this year and now St. Patrick's. So
Irish.
yeah, yeah. We're turning a little Gaelic over it. Anything the board needed to pull out for the consent agenda? All right, I'd entertain a motion to.
I have a question about the Silverton Green Grants Climate Resilience Project. The letter of support and the role that the town will be playing with regards to the letter.
I would say if staff wants to clarify.
Yeah, that's all.
And then if you want more discussion, let's pull it out as an agenda item. Yeah.
Thank you.
Second to get that.
Yeah, so as I understand it, this would be your second round of green grants that will be available within the town of Silverton. And yeah, so Eco Action reached out again to see if we would provide a letter of support. And one of the main points they made when reaching out to us was that during the first round of these grants, the demand for them outstripped the funding that was available. And so they anticipate, fully funding projects that come across their table in this round of grant applications.
And it looks like this is a grant request that's different from the funding from the Department of Energy prize. This is an additional grant they're going after to pursue. Yeah. Okay.
Why aren't we, as the town of Silverton, going after these funds?
Yeah, what I can say for this year is my feeling on that is that it's year 2 and this entity successfully managed those the administration of those grants down. But that's certainly for rounds of this funding, we could look into the possibility of applying for that funding ourselves and then doling out funding.
I definitely think this should be an in-house project, but that's just me.
Well, I think if the board wants to pull this letter of support and have a discussion about moving forward, then we should pull it from the consent agenda. If there's consensus to move forward with this letter of consent, then I think we can leave it there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Could I give just a little insight into like what they did for the process, just in terms of like what we have to manage? Cause this was separate from like any Team Gold stuff. In terms of like what's going on, but they had to like view applications, do background checks. They had to like convene a committee to review all the applications, and then they had to figure out some financing of some projects, like they worked with a different bank to help figure out, so it was kind of like a big administrative process, which it's kind of nice to have someone else do that.
No, I totally understand, but I feel that for this kind of money and for the language in here, I think this should be managed by the town of Silverton as the apparatus that goes after these type of funding. But that's a conversation for another time.
Thinking about
Yep.
it it's quite a process, but I understand.
Yeah.
Would you like to pull this conversation from the agenda or move on? Okay, I'm hearing,
Pull it.
say what?
I said, I'll go on a June fourth.
Okay, so let's then make a, let's see, Clayton, I don't think we've ever pulled something from the consent agenda. Is the process that we just added as an agenda item under business?
Yes, you can just, it's a vote, you pull it, and then you add it.
So I hear two people wanting to pull it from the consent agenda. They're seeing Amy, no, Tyler, no.
I mean, I think
No.
if we want to look at it in future, I think that's good, but I think we should continue with this letter of support now.
Okay, all right, I'm seeing 2 for pulling it, 4, 5 for proceeding, so we'll leave it in the consent agenda and move forward. And it sounds like there's a potential request for the future too. Think about town's capacity for the future. Okay, I would then, is there anything else on the consent agenda?
Grant.
Snowmaking grant. Okay, Ron had some questions and Steve, can we promote Steve to panelist? Yeah, great. Okay, Ron had a question on the snowmaking.
Would this grant cover the cost of the power that it takes to do this and the labor involved? And I assume we have water rights to do this with?
Correct on the water rights. Power and labor, I could not provide details on. What I can say is I'm telling the story of what we accomplished over the last year and the new, the HKD snowmaking trailer, and had a meeting with the HKD point person that was suggested by the granting organization to connect with to get a good grasp on what we would then be on the hook for. They definitely suggested I continue in pursuit of this, and so they'll offer sometimes 5, I guess they're stick guns, sometimes 3 stick guns that have their own compressor built in. They do have a fan gun that would be sort of a very, very modern approach to what we're doing with that snowmaking trailer, and would see in the future efforts with that snowmaking trailer would be greater amount of staff time. They cited the amount of staff time that operation would sort of absorb. And there is a modern version of what we have. It's 150,000, and that wouldn't be sort of one of those items in this. It's an in-kind grant, so they just award equipment. He was very excited about kind of the impact that the grant could have for us. And so their fan gun that would sort of fill that role of that trailer, we would need to have some electrical work. We already have that 3-phase 480 for the lift on site. We have the water rights, like I mentioned, and then it'd be getting the water from the bridge over to the ski area. I was speaking with John this morning. He mentioned we have enough ductile iron to make that connection if we were to pursue to do that. And this would be like one of what Mr. Weber brought up. So, and he's going to get back to me with his thoughts of a plan A, a plan B, and maybe phased approach for snowmaking over at Kendall, this HKD representative.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other clarifications on the consent agenda? I just wanted to note administratively on the municipal judge contract, if we would add a P to Miss Tompkins' name. I think it's Kins.
It is Tompkins.
So administratively noted to add a P to the contract. Any other? Item consent agenda. All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So.
Hey, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. George.
Yes.
Virgin.
Yes.
Mayor Kirk.
No. Jim said yes. Yep. All right, thanks, board. All right, now moving on to agenda item 6, staff reports. A lot of stuff going on staff reports. So anything staff would like to highlight or questions the board had? Elizabeth, welcome to your first staff report.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just highlight that we entered into a fee agreement with Schuller Edwards to provide support, guidance, legal advice as we continue to tackle the RMPP. The thought process there being just with Anthony's extensive background knowledge, that would be the best guidance that we could get in this process.
And again, despite his changing role, we were able to twist his arm to provide some legal advice. And the conversations we had, Lucy and Elizabeth and I had is, getting another attorney up to speed on the RMPP land transfer was going to be way more expensive than convincing Anthony to work with us as we try to move that across the line with the DLM. And we don't anticipate that this would even reach the $5,000 purchase order, but Elizabeth and I talked, we'll just, for transparency, have before the board have it in the staff update. Don, anything you wanted to highlight, call out, bring to our attention?
Sure. Did talk with SGM and gave them go ahead to create the RFP for the SID. There is a little bit, Dan had to send that back for another revision, location of a fire hydrant, so it's in their ball court. I expect that possibly this week, next week for sure, to start moving forward with that. And then I had a meeting last week with GMS. They were in town. And it was a very encouraging meeting for the wastewater treatment plant. We have lots of options. So I'm really looking forward to, we turned over a lot of information for them. There's still some unknowns down there, go figure. But long story short, I think this is not going to be a $17 million bill. It's going to be a lot cheaper. She is looking at options where we just realign our existing and
Like options.
we are still waiting for permit limits from the state.
Yeah.
The assumption was we may not get those this year.
Really, this year.
This year, they're so far behind. But that's our right in one aspect, because then we can have this other.
Discovery phase, yeah.
And it was a really, really good meeting. I cannot stress that enough.
This was from the same contact that I met at CML. Oh, she was just.
We're looking into a whole lot of different things.
Oh, professional development, guys. CML can save you $10 million.
Possibly more.
Yeah, yes.
We're hoping.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Great news. Keep our fingers crossed for that. Other questions that Melina or other staff want to highlight from the staff report? That is continuing to go on. Questions? Okay, all right, moving on. We'll move on to presentations and proclamations. Da-da-da-da. Oh, it's our certificate of recognition. Yeah.
Thank you.
Say a few words.
It's not your last meeting.
On my last meeting, I think I will, but thank you guys very much. I do appreciate this. It's been educational.
And again, for those who don't know, as long as Tyler has been here, I mean, Jim's still with us, so I'm not gonna speak to your tenure yet, but you know, Tyler was on the board starting with COVID time, navigating that as EMS director and having to navigate a whole new landscape, mandates and public policy and getting through that very contentious time on the board with multiple recalls, navigating town administrator hiring, staff changes. You decided to step forward and run again the same year that I did, and I just think that really speaks to your character and dedication to this community.
Thank you very much.
We wanted to acknowledge you.
It might speak to my lack of common sense.
All right, moving on to business item 7A. This is a public hearing for first reading of ordinance 2026-01, an ordinance of the town of Silverton amending chapter 5 land use code of the Silverton Municipal Code regarding updates to zoning, use standards, and administration and procedures. So we will start this public hearing by hearing from staff, and then we will get public comment, and then we'll have trustee discussion and deliberation. And just to make sure everybody's not confused, this is the land use code. Later, we will be having a public hearing related to building, energy, and wildfire code. So separating those two out.
Thank you.
Lucy.
Thank you. Yes, ordinance 2026-01 presents amendments to Silverton Municipal Code, Chapter 15, our land use code. And all of these amendments are based on the direction given to staff at the January 12th meeting. The memo explains the list of amendments that we discussed at the January 12th meeting. And the Planning Commission reviewed and unanimously recommended approval for the February Planning Commission meeting. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now or go into more detail. Otherwise, I'll hand it over to the board to open public comment.
Great, thanks, Lucy. We'll now open it up for public comment for this public hearing for the first reading of ordinance 2026-01. If you're in person and you'd like to make a public comment, please come to the podium, introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes. And if you're online and like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist. Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay. Do we have any public comment on Zoom? Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to trustee discussion and deliberation. Questions for Lucy on the changes that we made?
Start with the 25-foot lot width. Oh, interesting that we're reducing the lot width to tighten up the homes, and yet Bevan is gonna come around later and talk about needing defensible space. So it seems to me like it's a bit of a contradiction of what we're doing.
I'm happy to answer that. So this amendment proposed is actually a result of a typo. We're not actually changing the lot width. So right now in the R2 zoning district, the existing minimum lot width is 25 feet. The minimum lot size is 2,500, so 25 by 100. And right now there's one small section of the code that does not match the rest of the code where it says the lot width is 50 feet. But it's actually 25. So this is just a typo. We're not actually changing lot width right now.
Still brings up the question of reducing one, and then he's talking about the other thing, so.
And it's a valid comment. I think what we might hear later, and we'll have a longer discussion about the wildfire code, is again, when you're talking about like a code like a wildfire code is still designed so that you could have increased density, but you have to use certain building materials, right? And so we can still, I think, increase density while saying that according to a wildfire code, it has, like, we're not saying that everybody has to be 100 foot from their neighbor. But if the code, again, even though this is just clarifying a typo, if the code had an intention of increasing density and we're also trying to balance like wildfire mitigation, you know, that I don't think those are completely mutually exclusive because the wildfire mitigation relates a good bit to building new, but we will be talking about.
And those small size lots, they have like a 5-foot setback instead of 7, right? Is that correct? So it's a 2-foot difference that we're talking about.
But you're also talking about a 50-foot wide building lot versus 25.
It does increase density, right? Thanks, Ron. Other questions on the changes?
So will these tiny homes be on wheels then and rolling in and out of out of backyards? Is that the way it's gonna be set up?
Tiny homes as accessory dwelling units, which is permitted in the code, they must meet all of the standards for ADUs, and they would be required to be fully skirted.
Will they have to have foundations?
I do not, I believe the tiny homes would be exempt from a permanent foundation.
But they are skirted.
The stone wheels are there to put on blocks, but tiny house would have a solid foundation. Tiny home is allowed to be skirted like a mobile home.
Okay.
And still meeting the insulation standards for.
Yeah, they're all.
housing purposes.
Because it's Colorado percent, right? Yeah, tiny homes are certified at the state level, so they have to meet those certain requirements.
Questions, other questions on the changes? Okay, and again, these were the changes that were kind of discussed in a work session, and were based on feedback that we got. Again, just as a community, right? We adopted this big, huge land use code. We worked with it for a period of time and we collected feedback to kind of see how's it working, how's it isn't working. And these are some of the changes to be made, even just administratively with some of, with a few typos and changes. So again, additional questions, anything else the board would like to change, add as a condition? Or make an approval or continue this discussion? Okay, I'm not hearing any substantive suggestions, so I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2026-01, an ordinance of the town of Silverton amending chapter 15 land use code of the Silverton Municipal Code regarding updates to zoning use standards and administration procedures.
Second.
And then Tyler, great, roll call please.
Trustee Halverson?
Yes.
Trustee Redfield?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Trustee Garber?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Lucy. We also do a lot of paperwork in that department.
Oh, fun.
Okay, we're gonna move on to agenda item. I think we're kind of 7. Let me think. Let's see. I think we have a combined 7 B and C, so we're gonna treat this as the public hearing. We have the memo from Clayton. This is a public hearing for emergency ordinance number 2026-02. An ordering publication and mailing of notice of assessments hearing to the owners of the property to be assessed for improvements in the town of Silverton, 8th and Bluff Special Improvement District. Again, this is a public hearing related to the Special Improvement District. We will hear from staff, in this case Clayton, and then we will have public comment, and then we will move on to Clayton, question for you. I know the memo is a little bit broader than the ordinance in front of us. So do we need to discuss them separately, or can your memo be part of our ordinance discussion?
No, it's all the same thing. I think the memo is just a status update, kind of highlighting where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Right. So I think we can talk about it all at the same time, unless you want to break it up.
Or is that fine? That's better. Yeah. Okay, great. So we have the memo from Clayton. Clayton, I'll pick it up to you if you wanted to highlight anything, and then we'll open public comment.
Sure. And so we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. I think it's important that we just kind of keep the momentum going with this, since it's our project that we are working with the owners, obviously, and the energy and out-of-pocket expenses are going to eventually go to these assessments to the owners. But they need us to, because it's our special improvement district, to do a lot of the logistics, and this is one of those instances where you're going to be looking at an emergency ordinance to approve and pass the notice of assessments. The notice of assessment is where we're at now in the process. If you look at the the numbered steps, which again, I iterate to the board, are not necessarily in a linear order. These things can be pretty fluid. Right now, we are getting final design and getting ready to bid the project. We have already issued the preliminary order, and this is where you would notice the assessments as part of that step. This will trigger the owner's ability to consider and or lodge complaints or objections to the assessment. The owners don't foresee that. I spoke with the attorney for the district or for the owners, and it's their understanding that the assessment's going to be the same as what they already voted on for the cost of the project. And so we don't see any surprises coming with complaints or objections. However, there is a time period that must lapse. And then once that time period has passed, we will be actually authorizing the project. And so that's your status update. If you look at the ordinance itself, it is an ordinance which notifies the owners based on their blocks and however many lots they have of the amount per block, which turned out to be an estimated $50,000, excuse me, not blocks, lots, $50,000 per lot. There's varying levels of owners that own different numbers of lots. That's all laid out in a separate, tracker. And then this hearing is going to take place at the following, or a special meeting actually on March 23rd, I believe is a special meeting. Oh no, it's at the regular meeting on March 23rd, as when we notice this, at least according to this ordinance. Let's see, what else would you want to or need to know here? Yeah, so everything's moving along. We have previously identified the financier for the project. The bond council will be, issuing the bonds against the project for the financier. Everything seems to be in place. After the public hearing on March 23rd, we will move on to the next step. Pending your questions, that's all I have for you.
Thanks, Clayton. We'll now open up for public comment and then move on to trustee questions and deliberations. Do you have any public comment in person or on Zoom related to this public hearing? And again, if you're on Zoom, you can click the raise hand button. I think most of you on there are pretty accustomed to this process. All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment and move on to trustee discussion and deliberation. I'll just note for the record and for the board and public's benefit, you may be asking, like, why is this an emergency ordinance? Mm-hmm. And part of the reasoning there was kind of so we could keep the time frame with the March 23rd regular meeting. And again, my pitch with all of this has just been like, we shouldn't, if the board wants to move forward with this process, let's not keep delaying building seasons for these property owners. And so that's why it's an emergency ordinance with different noticing requirements. But we still have the proper noticing requirements for any of the property owners to submit protest or complaint.
Did we miss your public comment?
Oh,
Well, are we on?
we're not on building code yet.
Special improvement district, we're not on the.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I know why you're here, Jason, so we will make sure.
I miss you.
Yeah, don't miss. Yeah. So questions from the board on kind of the process, where we are, next steps?
I guess I understand why we want to, it's an emergency ordinance, so we can put it on timeline for the 23rd, but I'm trying to understand why didn't it come before us in the last meeting?
Lots of emails have been going back.
Okay.
To that, yeah. This was just the timing. I mean, we've been working with the bond attorney, working with the property owners. John's been involved in the SGM engineering side. This is the first, I'll just say, this is the first time the town has done something like this, really. And so we're kind of learning through the experience of, you know, other folks like the bond attorneys at Butler Snow. They've been really helpful. And so it's just been, I mean, I've been topping on those emails, Clayton's been on those emails. I think now Elizabeth's on all those emails. There's been a lot of back and forth in terms of steps 8 and 9, and just making sure, okay, did we issue the preliminary order? Now where we are in the process.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, I'll say to that. Yeah. He did not have the final ordinance drafted in time for the last meeting.
Okay.
Nice to see it is moving along though, and slowly but surely.
And again, I think the board asked Clayton last time, you know, we'll keep this on the agenda every 2 weeks for kind of just to check in on where we are in the process. I'm sure we'll see the RFP from SGM. But we're kind of in that time period where there is a lot of things happening in between. So, yeah.
Do you have anything to add, John?
No, I think you got it all. It's just, I didn't want to move forward with an RFP until I had good plans.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a delay.
And again, we kind of have these multiple tracks, right? You have the actual engineering and then the RFP from the town engineer for that to go out. That's kind of one track to bid the project. You have, okay, what are these process tracks that like involve Melina and involve Clay and involve the bond attorney? And so we're kind of having all these balls up in the air at the same time. And Clayton, I don't know if you had anything else to add there, or board had some more questions on this.
Got one.
Yeah.
Well, we also,
Yeah, go ahead, Clay, and then Ron.
oh, thank you, sir. Sorry I didn't mean to speak over you. Just remember, you know, with the timeline and how all the noticing works, we were going to have to, the way the timing works with the notices, this was going to be not just like a 15-day delay, but the way the meetings fall and the publications go, it was going to end up being like a 60-day delay because of the way that we do our ordinances, with the 2 readings and then the 30-day publication. So that was the decision that was made at the previous meeting, that we should do the emergency ordinance so that we could pass it this month and get that 15-day notice, or to get the clock rolling, versus versus having to do the 2 readings and then publish it and then wait the 30 days and then this go into effect and then the 15-day notice rolling. And so we're saving, nearly 2 months by doing this, which is in the best interest of the owners, because at this point, they voted and are going to have quite a bit of time and resources and money sunk into this project. So that's a little more of an explanation. I think there's a lot other things going on, of course, but part of it is our own process that necessitated doing the emergency ordinance so we can get this done.
Yeah, thanks,
immediately.
Yeah. That was helpful. Ron?
It says here in the overview, the estimated project cost of $3.6 million. But when we assess the people, it comes to 30 lots at $50,000 a piece. That's the 1.5 million. So
that includes the interest, sir. Yeah. So the 3.6, you have to include what it would cost if everybody pays it back on the APR basis. And so it builds in interest if somebody were to pay this back over a period of years versus just one lump sum.
Yeah, the 3.6 million assumes all the property owners take the full amount of time to pay.
And pay the full interest, that's correct.
And pay the full interest, yeah. It's why, when you buy that house, it's a lot more than.
If everybody pays in cash, it will cost them 1.5 million. Well, that's the total it could cost them. The bids are probably going to come in lower than that, according to Mr. Diener. And so it could cost much less. And if they pay in cash, it'll be that lesser number. If they pay in increments on the bonds with the interest, then it'll take that much more money to pay it off.
It's a good question, Ron, because I had that same job. I was like, wait, it says 3.6 up here and then it's 1.5 later. And yeah, good clarifying question. Other questions on the ordinance and the process?
No, I'm happy with keeping this thing rolling up on that hillside,
Up the hill.
up the hill. Side of hill.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-02. An emergency ordinance of the town of Silverton, Colorado, acting ex officio as the board of directors of the town of Silverton, 8th and Bluff Special Improvement District, ordering publication and mailing of notice of assessment hearings to the owners of the property to be assessed for improvements in the town of Silverton, 8th and Bluff Special Improvement District.
Second, thank you, Tyler.
It was a mouthful.
I-
That's why you got that certificate.
Earned it.
All right, roll call please, Melina.
Yes. Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon? Yes. George?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Yes. Get out your seal, Melina. Looks like there's some fun documents. That's just rolling the hold up.
Yeah.
All right, we are now moving on to the next public hearing. This is for emergency ordinance 2026-03, repealing and reenacting chapter 18, building and building regulations, town code, adoption of general and administrative provisions, and the adoption by reference of the codes as listed in section 18-1-10, 1.1 below as seen in the packet. And again, we'll start with staff comments. We'll move to public comment, and then we'll move on to trustee discussion and deliberation. All right, Bevan, we'll take it to you.
All right, so I've presented our need to adopt the wildfire resiliency code established in 2025. It needs to be adopted by April 1st of this year and then enforced by July 1st of this year. This is state mandated. It is, my recommendation is that it be amended via resolution and can be standalone. I think several counties have done that successfully already. Allows for modifying it later if there are changes by the state to that code, not having to do a full-on amendment. It pertains both to the structure and to defensible space around the structure, and considering the low snow and water year for us, I think it's inevitable that we're going to be dealing with this closer to home. We do, it's an effort by the state to help protect municipalities. I have some concerns with how the insurance companies may impose on residents and insurance owners on how they must maintain that. I don't know if that could go beyond what the state requires. So I think people need to be prepared for that. I don't really want to address that until I have specific answers from the state regarding insurance companies. But I have heard of people before the code obviously was being brought to a head of being dropped for having wood on their porch or, issues that the insurance company obviously felt was a concern or a violation. So it's a thorough attempt by the state to help mediate wildfires and the impact on homes. So I think it's fair. And I think in some ways it could do more, but the gray area question for me are, they say there's no retroactive on existing homes unless they are either being renovated beyond 25% or 500 square feet beyond 500 square feet of footprint. And then there are different classifications of fire zones and the way you treat that, but a lot of it will be around new construction. And the state does mapping, and that can change what class you're in as far as the fire danger. So that'll probably largely be impacted by how severe it is that year. And right now, most of town is in the yellow, which would be like, the less severe. But there are areas in the county and outskirts of town that are in the red that are more severe and require more stricter hardening and of the home, and gets into specific siding and more on doors and windows. Yeah. So the emergency was because we're short on time to get this through, and so it's my recommendation. I don't know what the consequences would be if we didn't adopt it, and we did ask that at the most recent fire code meeting in Montrose, and even the state code officials there couldn't give a specific other than the possibility of financial impacts by the state. It could be a reduction of, funds or grant money or, yeah. So that is WRC.
Just for new builds, right?
What's that?
Is it just for new builds, new homes?
No, it can apply to existing that have renovation work done.
Okay.
So it doesn't apply to if you just have your house and it exists. But if you start doing renovations, then it could impact if you're impacting more than 25% of your home, or more than 50% or 500 square feet of footprint, then it triggers the requirement.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And we'll hear from Bevan about each of these and the memo, and then we'll do public comment, and then we'll do trustee discussion, but it's fine.
This content that you just provided is strictly for the fire portion, correct?
That I'm talking about right now.
The content you just provided is strictly for fire.
For fire, I just want to keep it clean. Yeah.
All right, so keep going.
So then building code adoption, energy code. They are, so I've been working to considering county is in 06 code and town is in 2015 code to adopt more current code in the building and energy department. Been working obviously with Eco Actions and to understand and determine what best energy code to adopt, and then what amendments to make to them for our actual communities. To be clear, so the requirements by the state are that we adopt a minimum 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, IECC, and the Colorado Model Electric Ready, Solar Ready Code by between July 1st, 2023 and June 30th of 2026. My recommendation was to move toward 2024 energy code because it was less restrictive actually than the 2021 code. It provides more flexibility for achieving the efficiency goals in construction. Beyond, it is more It's about 5% more energy efficient as well. But there are cost benefits too. So it actually it can be more affordable to build to that standard.
And let me clarify something really quick for the record, Bevan, and what you just said. I think we're getting hung up on the dates and just to clarify that the language is that if a community, if a municipality or county is updating their building codes between that time period, then that triggers that they have to update that.
Pretty much any adoption of or amendment to your building codes, with the exception of plumbing and electric, trigger the requirement by the state to adopt the most current energy code, at minimum 2021.
We don't have to adopt the energy code within that period. It's if we change our building codes within that period, then that triggers adoption of the energy code.
Right. So if we had done any amendments to our building code since 2023, we would have been required to, we're mandated to adopt the newer energy code. We have not, and there's some confusion around it. And it was surprising to me 2 weeks ago, discovered that that is a stipulation in the state's code. So while we have 2030, July 1st, or June 30th, 2030 as the finite goal. So if we haven't adopted a more current energy code, either 2021 or 2024, or the MLECC, then we have to adopt the model low carbon emissions code by 2030. And if we don't adopt energy code, either 2021 IECC or 2024 IECC by June, or basically by July 1st of this year, we have to adopt the model low emission carbon code. And so that's
mandated by the state.
That's mandated by the state.
Of the wildfire code?
Wait.
Sorry.
Time out.
I know.
Yeah.
Last meeting that it should have all been broken up.
Yeah.
This is-
I think there's been a lot of confusion, and so I want to manage this public hearing process procedurally well.
Okay.
So, so let me think of how to clarify this. I think the board can ask clarifying questions to Bevan before we get into like discussion deliberations.
I'm going to go back to what I said 2 weeks ago at our last meeting, that this needs to be broken up for individual discussions on each individual thing, because it is complicated. There are a lot of information provided and a lot of moving parts. And there should be way more discussion than this emergency ordinance, because there is no emergency anymore. So we should take the time as a board, have public input, have true public input, and break this out one by one, so that we can be educated on each of these topics and subjects.
Okay, let's pause. You can ask the clarifying questions. We're gonna do public I'm sorry, I am a process person because we got to preserve the integrity of our processes. So clarifying questions to Bevan. And then we can speak to how to move forward and have discussions about that. So
May I ask the first
yes.
question? Is this an emergency?
It requires emergency adoption let me finish. If it's emergency adoption, if we want to adopt it by the required timelines.
Which we've already discussed,
Got the time.
that we don't need those timelines because they're not actually real timelines.
Well, one of them
And
is.
this
one
is,
of-
Wildfire is.
which is why it needs to be broken out, to have those conversations on specific items and types. If this is not an emergency ordinance, then this conversation is moot, and then we can break it out into 3 individual topics.
Okay, this is how I'd like to proceed.
Can I ask
Let's-
a clarifying
yes.
question? I promise it's
Yes.
clarifying.
Yes.
So does the wildfire code change building code?
Has nothing to do with it. It doesn't trigger anything. That's why I spoke to it separately. It is mandated by the state. We have no options with it unless someone has a friend in the state that has some idea on why and how it's be a good idea to avoid it. But the building is separate and that involves energy.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to keep those 2 separate, just so we understand that that's the requirement. That is, Melina could speak best to it, but in order for us to get that in and adopted by April 1st, we need to have it as an emergency adoption.
But yet we don't know what happens at April 1st.
What the implications are.
What the implications. Yes, we have no idea.
We don't know what the penalties are.
And you just said that.
Board, I'd like to open up the public comment and then the board can have a full, robust discussion. So that's how I would like to perceive the process. So if you'd like to make a public comment on this emergency ordinance, I realize that we have all of these things conflated. But this is an emergency ordinance for what's presented, and what's presented relates to the wildfire code, the building code, and the energy code. And so let's open it up to public comment. If you're on Zoom, you can make a public comment. And if you're in person, you can make a public comment. You'll have 3 minutes. We'll hear the public comment and then we can have a robust discussion. And I would like to add some clarification and read the House bill that got all of this started. So welcome to public comment. That's you. Come on, JP. You've sat through an hour of meeting already.
That's okay. That's okay. Need to sit in more. JP Stanley, builder here. I'm on board with the wildland code. We need to be more on board with the state and what they're, especially with our conditions of our forests here in San Juan's. What I don't agree with is that we're not in an emergency on the building code. It's not, I'm a little nervous, sorry, I'll hang out with you, all of you, but I just not on board with this. It's not an emergency, like Jim said. And thank you for the last meeting and the things that you said. They were valid. But I don't agree that this is an emergency. It's not something that needs to be voted on right now. I was never informed as a builder of any of this. As far as I know, I'll speak, I don't know who all is on Zoom, but I'll speak for most of us builders here. And not a single one of us were informed on some of these stats, timelines, how this is going to affect us. I mean, we're a community that just got off of coal. So I would give us props on just moving forward in that aspect. But as far as like adapting something based on San Miguel Power fundings, I don't think we're ready for that yet. Talk about adapting to the 2024, I think it's 2024 code. Is definitely better than 2021 code in most aspects of that, as Bevan stated. So it's definitely something that is to be looked into, but I will just end with, there's no emergency here. So no emergency decisions need to be made until we have more information, more of a process for Silvertonians and future people of Silverton to be able to build, remodel. Most of my business is remodeling. So this would affect me and the people that are trying to hold on to the homes that they have greatly. And I don't think that it's something that needs to be decided in an emergency, because we don't have an emergency. We have till 2030 in retrospect to look at that. So Anyways.
Thank you. 6 minutes to spare. Do we have other in-person public comments? Kim, thanks for joining us.
Kim Wheels with Russian Partners. Great to be here in person today. I actually came with a presentation prepared based on our last meeting that I was on Zoom for.
Okay.
I recognize I'm not on the agenda, but that's what I have prepared, so.
Okay. Let's do this a couple different ways, because I think very quickly when we close public comment, we're going to be able to have some clarity around this whole discussion. So thank you for making the trek, and just hold that comment for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you need me to comment via public comment versus a presentation, I think I can provide some insights that could be helpful for the conversation. So
that's great. I think we can look to the board for that in just a second. Okay, thank you, Kim. Public comment on Zoom.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah, go ahead.
Deanne Gallegos, speaking with all my hats and citizen. I just wanted to speak more to the community process around this emergency ordinance, as opposed to saying I know anything about code, right? And so being a part of Team Gold, the newspaper, San Juan County Office of Emergency Management, got a ton of feedback about this specific ordinance, not necessarily wildfire, but the land use, the energy code. I just want to speak to the process. After reading Bevan's memo, communicating with him, also speaking with Willie Tukey over at the county, I was always confused, like, why is the county not in an emergency mode, but town is? But in the end, it doesn't sound like it's an actual emergency. It was kind of a timeline of trying to get it adopted by April 1st. Doesn't sound now like April 1st is technically a drop dead date. So I want to advocate for more of an actual community process, specifically around those that this would affect the most, the building community. As a chamber director, I had a lot of conversations with the builders. They knew nothing about this coming down the pike because it was pushed through an emergency ordinance process. Then also with my role with the newspaper, technically this did not come out to the public until on Thursday. If you by chance got the town packet and knew to look for it, and or got a digital copy of the newspaper does not physically come out in our kiosks until Friday now due to a Montrose Press issue. So we had a day, 3 days for this to trickle down into the community, which is causing the confusion, the conversations, and the basically untrust of this process. And so we have been trained as a community, specifically around Compass Master Plan, to actually have community engagement. So I would ask this board, if this really isn't an emergency, and this is what you guys got to figure out, this isn't really policy to be driven by politicians. It should be discussed with our actual industry that has a localized opinion. I heard from 9318, this could cost up to $100K upwards on new builds. How do we break that down? How do we have real conversations with the people who are boots on the ground, building homes, remodeling, and really deciding what is best for Silverton and San Juan County? Thank you.
We have other comments on Zoom. Yeah, go ahead, Kendra.
May I make a public comment in person?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kendra Held. I work with Eco Action Partners along with Kim. And would please like to speak to the outreach that has been done, claims that have been provided in the past. We received a grant last fall of 2024, to do cohort work. And since then have provided a variety of workshops and trainings for the building community across the region. Trying to be really mindful about providing that both in person and over Zoom for folks. Because you know that travel takes a lot of time and folks are busy and have a lot of things going on. I will say that all of those trainings and workshops are available online on our website, so folks can tune in to do a deep dive on building science or electrification. We did 2 mechanical contractor roundtables, so there's just a few of the options that have come out from the past year the first ones being in February of last year. The next thing I'll say is that we are hosting a lunch and learn tomorrow specifically for the building community. So contractors are welcome to join us at the Kendall Center from 11 to 2. Would love to be able to talk more specifically about the LECC there. And then there's also going to be a full day training on Thursday, March 26th. That's going to be a deep dive on the LECC. So sometimes for folks that can be a big investment to put time into a training when you're not sure if your council is going to adopt a new code or not. And so trying to time that just right to support the building community and coming up to speed on what the LECC requires from a building perspective and architect's perspective. I'll just finish by saying that I have no doubts that the contractor community, the building community in Silverton is able to meet the requirements of the LECC. We have very capable contractors here. And I think it's a matter of understanding what the codes require. But that isn't a concern that I have personally. So thank you very much for your time and looking forward to the rest of the process. Thank you.
Do we have other, again, in-person comment or public comment for the board has discussion and have an opportunity to clarify from action partners and from Bevan and staff? Other public comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Kim Wales with Eco Action Partners. I just want to say that part of the reason for the timeline of working with Bevan and the region.
Speak up.
Yes, of course. I just wanted to say that part of the reason for the timeline for adoption across the region for the low energy and carbon code is that Eco Action has a grant that expires at the end of June. So we are supporting you with adoption of the code to advance Silverton's codes as far as possible, knowing that it takes a lot of resources, a lot of staff time, a lot of your time, and a lot of building communities' time to come up to speed, to learn what a new code is all about and to go through the whole process. So part of the reason is to help maximize and take advantage of that opportunity of the grant for community Silverton as well as the rest of the region. So.
Additional public comment? Yeah, go ahead. I don't know if we have a rule against multiple rounds. I kind of normally it's, well, you should go.
I would just like to state that I think as a builder here, along with multiple other builders that live here, own homes here and create homes that are more efficient for everyone else that's here, that we do strive without being told what to do. We strive to build efficient homes. I mean, we all understand and we all suffer through electric bills and propane bills and these sort of things. So when we're building, I strive to try to give the owner the best quality, best efficient home that we can. We look at all the new technologies. One of the new things that everybody talks about is heat pumps. I've installed 6 in this town so far. All of them work great here in Silverton. And that is not something I had to be told to do. I didn't need to be told to do that. I work with Bevan I consult with Bevan on codes. He goes to these classes. I listen to what he has to say. He listens to what I have to say as a builder, as he does with every builder in this town. And we adapt to these things equally without there being a mandate for a grant that's being given to another company that does not live here, that does not know what Silverton needs, what Silverton wants. We're doing this on our own, and we have been doing this on our own. We've been applying for grants on our own, whether it's the fire department, our city, our county, it doesn't matter. We all are applying for these grants and we're getting these. It's amazing how many grants we get in this town from just our hardworking people. We don't need other people doing that for us. So keep it Silverton. We're all doing our best to adapt to the new rules, to make things more affordable for everybody, because as housing prices grow, we don't want to be paying more for electricity or propane or more trees we have to cut to heat our house. Like we want it to be more efficient, and we can do that within our group right here. This is our group. So let's just keep it here and keep it local. And we do a great job. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate every one of you, and let's just keep it going the way it's been going for years and years. We've been adapting. Like I said, we just got rid of coal. Like, I mean, I feel like we're in the 21st century now, you know? So let's just stay focused right here. Listen to what everybody has to say here, not outside sources.
Thank you. Any other public comment on Zoom? Yeah, I think, all right, Kim, I'm gonna give you one more and then we're gonna not do everybody repeating again and turn it, yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to make a clarification. It was stated earlier that the Silverton would have until 2030, June 30th of 2030, to adopt the state mandated low energy and carbon code. It was actually just clarified for us on our technical resources call today that by June 30th of 2030, the requirements would likely be beyond the 2027 IECC. So if Silverton, the longer Silverton waits, the more stringent and the more of a gap between the current code and the future code that will be required. So I just kind of wanted to make that clear in your conversation thought process. Thank you.
Is there information to back that up?
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna level set us just a sec, Jim.
I'd like to have all the information. I feel like we don't have all the
I
information.
know, let me just. All right, any more public comment from anybody who has not spoken? Okay, I'm gonna close public comment. All right, I'm gonna help us get all back on the same page of how we got here, where are we, and what in the world we're talking about. I'm gonna put the wildfire code to the side for a second, because that all seems pretty clear, even though it definitely has effects for our community that we're gonna have a conversation around. Okay, I have the House bill pulled up. And so I'm gonna say a couple of things about how we got here. The reason why, first off, why is this emergency ordinance on the agenda today? Because at the last public meeting, that's what the Board of Trustees asked for. The majority did. Some of us didn't, and the majority did. So with the information that we had at the February 23rd meeting, the board said, the next step we want is we want an emergency ordinance, because the information we had at that time was that this was a time frame that we needed to meet that required an emergency ordinance. So the board said, put it as an emergency ordinance at the next public meeting. Since that meeting, Bevan has gotten new information. Town staff has gotten new information. That's relevant. But again, I want to bring us back to process. Town staff doesn't get to change what the board directed at a public meeting based on new information. They need to still proceed with what the board directed in public. And then at the next public meeting, they can say, hey, this is the new information I have. Now, what do you want to do with it? Right? So that's kind of why we've preserved this emergency ordinance as an agenda item to protect the process. So everybody knows that what we've worked so hard on is things happen in the public. We don't make decisions in the private. What the board said in one meeting gets carried forward to the next public meeting. So that's why it's an emergency ordinance, is to protect that process. And now we all say, oh, wait, we have new information that might change why this is an emergency or what the board would like to do. So I want to read from the House bill. I think we've heard a lot of great information, but I'm going to read from the actual bill that came down from the state. And part of the challenge in all this is that we have had gaps in process, right? We've had gaps in information. We have a technical assistance provider that's attempted to help. We have a quarter-time code enforcement officer. I'd like to remind everybody that Bevan is like quarter-time code enforcement as his job. So as Kim said, updating code, dealing with code changes is super complicated, which is why organizations like EcoAction get grants to help municipalities navigate the code changes. And I think we've just had a few fits and starts in this whole process to help get everybody on the same page. To Jim's point, I think haven't all had the full information and context for what we're being asked to do, what we're required to do, what the implications are if we don't do it. So let's start from the common framework of first reading the House bill that says what in the world we have to do. This is HB 22-1362, and it says, the act establishes when municipalities and counties must adopt and enforce codes that achieve equivalent or better energy performance than the codes adopted by the board as follows. On or after July 1st, 2023, and before July 1st, 2026, municipalities and counties that update a building code shall adopt and enforce an energy code that achieves equivalent or better energy performance in the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code and the Model Electric and Solar Ready Code developed by the board. So what that says to me is that if, as Bevan said earlier in his memo, with the new information that he had, if our board would have been making changes to our building code between that time period, that would trigger the requirement that we adopt at least the 2021 Energy Conservation Code and the Model Electric and Solar Ready Code. The second bullet point in the bill is on or after July 1st, 2026, municipalities and counties that update a building code, so anytime after that we update a building code, shall adopt and enforce an energy code that achieves equivalent or better energy performance than the model low energy and carbon code language developed by the board. And then it goes on to say that there was the time frame in here of the 2030
January 1.
that we had by, I think it was July. Do you see January 1?
On or before January 1st, 2030, the Office of the State Architect. Want to continue on?
Yeah. The Division of Housing and Division of Fire Prevention and Control shall adopt and enforce an energy code that achieves equivalent or better energy and carbon emissions than the model low energy and carbon code developed by the board. So there's a couple of things here, and thank you, Kim, for that clarification. Again, when any of this new legislation is passed, there's lots of implications. What does it mean? What's the time frame? How do we implement it? We're a tiny community. What does this look like?
How do we fund it?
How do we fund it? So the last direction from the board was emergency ordinance, so we can actually get it in front of us and see what we're talking about. We have the context that there is support from Eco Action Partners to help carry us, to help us with this if that's our desire. But it is true to say it is not an emergency. We can take our time to have a conversation around the building code, to hear from Bevan. I mean, Bevan has made the argument that we should maybe have this conversation with the county. When is the county doing it? Yeah. So because the thing that triggered what felt like emergency is if we were updating our building code. And Bevan, to your credit, you were saying, hey, we do need to update our building code. These all seem related. It sounds like we need to get this process rolling. And we now have new information. So I would propose to the board a couple of suggestions, and then we also can have a robust conversation because I have taken advantage of my bully pulpit to help get us all on the same page. The board does not have to adopt any new code beyond the wildfire code urgently. We've heard from our code enforcement officer that we probably need to start looking at our building code, right? It's potentially out of date. We need to get on a process to update that. And doing that will trigger that we need to consider the energy code as well. And to Kim's point, I think it's fair to say the longer we wait, the less control we have over what we adopt potentially. And so that's a conversation for the board. So what I would like to propose to the board is process. We can certainly have a robust conversation, is to table the conversation around the building and energy code. And I would suggest that the new board and staff pick this up again over the next 18 months. Make it a priority. That's my suggestion. Obviously, that's up to the board. And focus our conversation around the wildfire code, which has a more urgent timeframe. But that's just my recommendation, and the board is absolutely open to those other alternatives and suggestions.
I'd be in favor of that as well, especially just hearing the need for more community engagement, with our builders.
And Bevan, did you say, sorry, can I ask a question? Did you say that we can deal with the wildfire code just via resolution? I'm trying to, is that correct, or is that?
I believe that's correct. I'll verify with, or with, county attorney as well, and I believe that La Plata County or Durango, adopted it that way. Mhm.
And we can also ask Clayton a clarifying question. Clayton, I abused it with setting us all kind of back to where we can have this conversation. Do you have any other information in terms of what is in the bill and or the wildfire code for municipalities like us?
No, I did check up on what would happen if we busted one of the required dates for the building code, and they do say that there's the possibility, I think I said last time, that I've never seen or heard of a town getting financially docked for doing something, or that it's always been kind of the threat of not being able to apply for certain grants. But there is monetary consequences built into built into the bill, but I haven't seen it. And if, we have professional people telling us that it's not 100% necessary to do it by that date, then I don't have any other information beyond that would change anybody's mind. And I trust that those people know, that, they're the subject matter experts, and they've talked to other subject matter experts, and I trust what, the information they're providing.
Thanks, Clayton. And in terms of the wildfire code, do you have any clarity around other municipalities' timeframe? Is everybody doing it by a resolution, by an ordinance? Like, are there implications for town liability if we adopt this April 23rd instead of April 1st? Like, what's the, can you speak any more to the wildfire code?
I haven't heard a lot about that, to be frank with you. I can look into it. CML put out a brief primer, I think, but it was just basically, this is the date you have to do this by. And again, are there possibilities of monetary consequences? Yes. And don't hear me tell you that it's not going to happen. I've just never seen the state actually come out and do that. There's other consequences, and I'm not saying that they wouldn't do it for this one. I just don't know. I've never seen it. And I know there are a lot of small towns out there that are decades behind on building codes and things like this. And a lot of times, the state will want to work with you. The issue now is that once you know, and ignorance is no longer a mitigating factor. So.
Right. Okay, thank you. And again, what we have in the bill is that if we make changes to our building code, then that triggers the energy code adoption. And no matter what, the energy code has to be adopted by 2030. That's what seems to be spelled out. And Kim, I don't know if you guys have any clarification on that with the bill. I know you had further information. Does the board feel okay asking clarifying questions to Eco Action? Yeah, as subject matter experts. Yeah, Kim, come on up. I think that was a lot of the confusion.
Can we clarify first that this is not an emergency, and we should probably have a discussion that is focused solely on what?
Wildfire.
Okay.
And yeah, but so we can do the wildfire without any of the other adoption.
And following procedure that you would like to have, we need to give direction that this is not an emergency. We're not having this, but we would like to seek additional information regarding the wildfire code.
Well, we have to have a question about again, I appreciate, Jim, that you wanted to separate it out, and it was a great idea. So we're learning about process. It's possible that we need to have a conversation about whether it is an emergency ordinance for the wildfire code. That's possible. That's the conversation we need.
This is all lumped together. That's the conversation.
It is.
And I think that's the overarching issue, is that we gave staff direction, as you said, to create an emergency ordinance all encompassing.
Yeah.
Now that we recognize this is not an all encompassing anything, we should probably, and Melina's nodding her head, we should probably have some sort of direction stating, A, this is not an emergency. B, this should all be separate. And we're all acknowledging that this is A, not an emergency, and B, should all be separated out to have further discussion.
And it's possible.
And I'd like to have that on
we
record.
Special session to just talk about the wildfire.
And that's fine.
Kim, can you just clarify for us, since you're closest to this issue, like the 2030 timeframe is the correct timeframe unless we have updated our building codes previous to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just can't, like I said before, the current requirement would be LACC because that's the most advanced state code that exists. But between now and then, something else will likely take place.
Great, thank you. Again, I think it's up to the future board, I would say, to have this conversation about setting it as a priority. I think what we have from Eco Action in terms of amendments for high altitude, for our climate, like all those conversations need to be had. And again, with our builders, but I think it is very relevant to say we had information that made us assume that we needed to make a decision in a certain time frame, and now that information has changed. Yeah, it doesn't mean the topic isn't still important, that we don't need to pick it up again, that we don't need to vote on it, that we don't need to hear more from our regional subject matter experts and our community members, develop truly a Silverton specific approach, but it seems like there's a different way we could go about this. So yeah.
For the wildland fire thing, like again, I for one, all the other building code stuff aside, I am not eager to see what happens if we don't adopt that in time, especially when it comes to insurance companies. They'll look for any excuse to drop us. And if we haven't adopted a state wildland fire mandate, then that'll just be another excuse for them to just wholesale drop people. I've already been dropped. I know a bunch of other people have been dropped for that. So that I do think we should make sure. I feel like that is an emergency. I would like to get that adopted within the time frame if it's possible.
Thanks, Ed.
That's my process question then. So because we've noticed it as part, like the wildfire code is part of the noticing of the original ordinance, can that section just be adopted or do we have to do?
You won't be reading this, you won't be adopting this, and
Yeah.
so we'll have to bring it to you as either, when is the deadline for wildfire?
Adoption April 1st.
April 1st. Okay, so we would have to draft just an emergency ordinance for the wildfire code and bring it to you.
We could do it on the 23rd. We don't have to do a special meeting on the.
Oh, we could do it on the 23rd if you're going to do it as an emergency. But that would just be for
Yeah, yeah.
just that.
So
That way it would be in effect before.
Yep, and we didn't even have the wildfire ordinance in front of us.
Yeah.
It's part of the
No,
package.
that would just be just by itself. No other code.
So Bevan, I've got a question for you. How much more time will this take out of your day to manage this wildfire?
Well, it's going to require assistance from the fire department or other public members to ideally the fire department to start doing assessments of structures of residence homes. And because that is what's going to direct them to how to, modify either their home. In the cases of pre-existing homes, they're fine. We can make suggestions. So that's something that we can practice doing. But new construction, I'll be giving all the contractors, the information as far as it could be. I'm putting in hours. It could be 2 to 3 hours a week, as far as doing evaluations, that could, generally it's established on the design phase of the house. So I've got to, establish and verify all that in the planning and end of the building permit phase, but then I have to go do inspections on it too. So I don't know, having not done it yet, how long it's gonna take. My guess is 2 to 3 hours a week. And then that's not including going and assessing homes if they want an evaluation. That's where I'd like to train the staff to go and assist in doing home evaluations.
So the state is forcing us to do this, but they're not giving us any funds to do it with.
Called unfunded mandates, Ron. It's great fun.
We need a full.
They do it all the time.
We need
That's Willie.
staff in your area.
I'm not happy about it either, but I'd be less happy seeing the town burn. And
I think that there's an effort, right? Like, we don't want a point where the state of Colorado is uninsurable, right? And so these are some efforts by the state legislature to work towards that, right?
Without providing any funding.
It. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so moving forward, I want to help us move forward through this agenda item. So Jim, you're absolutely right. These are all rolled up in one. So it seems like we have a couple of options here. We can table this emergency ordinance. And we can give staff direction to draft a separate emergency ordinance for the wildland resiliency code for the next meeting. And we can give staff direction that, working with the county, et cetera. Like, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that updating our building code and dealing with the energy code has to be addressed, right? We can't just kick down the can down the road for till 2030. We're like, oh crap, we need another emergency ordinance. So how would the board like to proceed?
I think with what you just said, table this, create an emergency ordinance for the wildfire code and have more work sessions, community engagement surrounding everything else.
I think the key to the building code is it's clear the process can't be managed just by Bevan or even like staff. So I think if we were to continue down this process, we need a partner to help facilitate that community engagement. And I think like Leanne said, community builders spoiled us with how much input we get to give. So I don't think it needs to be that, but it seems like this is a big enough reason to have a larger process for the community to understand building code, because it's just, it's different than land use, but still pretty big.
And we had someone support us get through land use code, right? Like we set aside funding. I think there also could be further grants. I mean, looking at the Office of Energy, there are grants, just the same point to what Kim has mentioned. Again, I realize we're running up against the cycle of this grant. And I also know that government moves at a glacial pace and government officials do not like to be backed into an urgent decision. And that's the temperature I'm getting from the board. And so I think there are future options for seeking that support. I think that's really valid, Lindsay, to raise that because we are a small community. This is an unfunded mandate in terms of the energy code. And we should look to kind of what has worked well for Silverton in the past, our land use code, our master planning processes. Those were fairly successful endeavors. Clayton, I have a process question, again, because we noticed this as an emergency ordinance. The board is not wanting to move forward, it sounds like, with passing it. So do we have to table it till a date certain? Just remind me procedurally what we have to do.
Or vote no.
Or can we vote no? For sure, or is the recommend, if the board does not want to pass it as an emergency ordinance, do we vote no?
Yeah, I mean, as presented, you can vote to pass it, vote to table it, vote to deny it, and then give direction as to how you want to see it presented or represented, because you're not going to see it in the same format. So it's not the same ordinance. And so those are your three options. given the discussion and what you're saying, it sounds to me like the board is leaning towards denying or voting to deny the ordinance as presented, and then giving direction to the staff as to how they'd like to see it, presented and packaged differently.
Thoughts on the board? How do you want to move forward? Ron, we heard from Amy, Ron, Tyler, Carl, Lindsay wants TA, move forward.
Well, I don't want to, I feel like voting no is like a bad sign of like, we don't want to pass any building code, so whatever. Not passing it, not voting no, but like either a table or a different night.
You can deny this as
Yeah.
presented, and then you've given pretty clear direction on what you want us to do, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You can vote to deny.
I would like to vote no as presented.
Yes.
Following procedure. That is, we vote no now, we bring it back. Parts of this in future sessions with the new board. And then obviously, this wildfire situation, I know it's changing, and I know the wildfire. I know it's changing because there are aspects of it, I'm looking at it right now, that have been crossed out as of 2 days ago. And they resubmitted it. So I want to do what's best for this community. And I have said that since day one. And God love Eco Action and everything you guys have done. And Kim Will, you and Lotus Engineering and Energy, or whatever the name is. What this town needs is to take a step back, reassess all the information, look at it, and then come to a real conclusion that benefits us. Because when our friends to the south, our friends to the north, our friends to the west are doing the same thing, pushing back just a bit, pumping the brakes and asking for real community input, that to me tells me that, hey, maybe we should be doing the same, because this probably isn't a template issue. It's not a template issue. You can't just overlay a template and say, here you go. That is not right for this community. That's not right for this town. It's just not. And that has been my statement all along for 6 whole years. It's not. So I would like to table this, gather additional information, thank everyone for their hard work, and come back with additional information so that we can make real educated judgment decisions. That's what I would like. And I would like further to better understand the county's perspective, because my understanding from talking to the county commissioners, from talking to the county manager and whatnot, that this is not something they think needs to come down the pike for us. And if we are going to move forward in solidarity as a community, then we need to have all input and everyone buying into the process. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Jim. So again, just to clarify procedurally, if we tabling it means we are going to discuss it at a future date in this format. So I would encourage the board, if we don't want to see this again in the same format, then we need to entertain a motion to deny this ordinance and then give staff direction to do what I have heard, which is present an emergency ordinance to wildfire resiliency code at the next meeting, and put this on a future work session, meeting agenda. Remember that 2030 date is out there, and there's a lot that can happen, and we should keep our finger on the pulse of that, working with county, regional partners, or Porter Time Lovely Building Code Enforcement Officer, etc. Okay. So would anyone like
Do we need to take a roll call? Do we need to?
we need to enter, go ahead, Amy's ready.
Direction, right?
No, it's a motion to deny.
You gotta read.
Amy's ready.
I'll make a motion to deny ordinance 2026-03, repealing and reenacting chapter 18, buildings and building regulations of the town code through the adoption of the general and administrative provisions and the adoption by reference of the codes as listed in section 18-1-10.
So if you second, you are seconding the motion of denial.
Second.
There we go.
But now we want to vote yes, because it's a motion to deny.
Aye. Okay, so seconded by Jim. Roll call, please, Melina.
Okay, trustee Robertson,
Yes.
trustee Wakefield, trustee Schiffer,
Yes.
trustee Gardner,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
trustee Harper.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes. Great. Thank you, board. I know that was painful. This steps along the way in process and preserving the integrity of the process. Do things in the public.
The work that's been done is not lost. Like,
Exactly.
we're gonna carry this forward and keep.
And that's why everyone needs to be thanked for all their hard work.
Yeah,
But
and the amendments in here, this is high altitude climate specific. Like there's a lot of stuff here we can work with. We just don't feeling like. So again, staff is directed to draft an emergency ordinance for Monday for wildfire code and put this on a future discussion item. Anything else from staff going forward? No, Evan, good. We're not gonna do more public comment, Kim. Okay, so I think we'll reach out to you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Now moving on to agenda item. Good job, board. Agenda item 7E, the Facilities Parks and Recs Manager position.
Right.
So everybody take a deep breath.
Steve here also, so he's jump in whenever. You saw this at the finance committee. And direction was to figure out how to fund this position long term. Something that the Parks and Rec Department. I took a look at the original proposed number for that salary. And then compared it to our compensation study that we adopted, and we can actually afford to start someone in that position for quite a bit less than what we proposed originally. And then for sustainability, long-term, both the raise in facility fees and days at Kendall, starting in 2027, we already have, we can cover this position for the first year with the sheriff's surplus. But moving past that, raising the rates for our facilities, and then anytime that this position and actually our existing staff, anytime that they spend up at Mullis, even though it's an enterprise fund, if we can bill their hours that they spend up there from the Mullis fund. And so I broke all that down in your memo. And Steve is also here if you would like to jump in and add anything else on this position.
Sure, thank you. I think, yeah, I appreciate how you dug into this and sort of highlighted where this can be a sustainable position, and how it can be funded in the near term. With the right person, this would allow this department to really perform, I think, at the level that is expected. Currently, the deferred maintenance, I think you can very much attribute some of that to, if you don't have money for a new roof, you don't have money for a new roof. But 4 years of buckets in town hall is an example of something that, you know, there's lots of opportunities that are being pursued. And while that happens, things like 4 years of buckets in town hall should not be, you know, okay. Not that it was okay. So I think, yes, with the right person, I think we can continue the pursuits of more within this department, as well as address the laundry list of areas that have been deferred. And I think some of that hopefully will come from that facility rentals as well. I mean, Mullis is a whole nother can of worms. So I kind of brought that to Melina's attention, and she navigated that is a way in which this can support, or that enterprise fund can provide the support financially. You know, up there, you look right through the siding to the house wrap on those bathrooms, as an example. You have Willow's inch, that are exceeding possibly the ability of loppers in the ditch that's supplying pretty critical. It's aesthetic, it's recreation value, and almost most importantly, we own those top 3 feet on Mullis Lake as far as water and sort of an augmentation option. So I think also looking at the NRD decision that was made recently and 1.72 million that'll be coming to support that Animas River Corridor project. Things look very promising within some of the other grant pursuits we have in the pipeline. And I feel like this department is going to be in the seat of the customer and the driver of this project. We have great partners. That's going to be crucial. But so that's about what I'd like to share. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
My biggest concern, it wasn't in the budget.
Say again, Ron?
My biggest concern is it wasn't in the budget. We hadn't planned for it, even though Elaine has come up with funds for it.
Well, so this was something that we didn't put in the, we weren't sure how much we were going to get back from the county, but this is something that Gloria specifically asked to keep an eye on for this position for his department. And then moving forward, just kind of doing the research and looking at Taylor's projections in the events and being able to pull from administrative fees from Mullis. And the original number not needing to be as high starting salary, it can be lower based on the compensation study that we did. That number starting them between 50 and 60,000 is competitive compared to the region for somebody in that position. So it was something that we knew was going to be, there was going to be potential, but we didn't want to put it in the budget because we didn't want to anticipate funds if we weren't sure they were going to be there, but they are. And then moving forward, it looks like something that we can certainly afford to have. And we did have somebody in this position when Todd Bove was still the Parks and Rec director, but that it was vacated and then we just haven't replaced it since. But I think it would be great.
Explain that. Other questions? Ron, did you have more questions related to that? Thanks.
So in the budget committee, then you all found this like workable with this year's budget.
Again, we didn't know what the return from the
Right, okay.
state collections was going to be, so we had there was a list of priorities and things that got one line back. What?
Yeah.
Do we have any additional numbers or figures from 2 meetings ago that stated we were down 24.4%?
Our sales tax is down, I believe, 15.2% in December. But we haven't gotten any numbers.
We haven't got any new ones. Okay.
Yeah, that was our February.
That's actually an improvement.
Oh, February.
That was our February.
Dropping it. We went from 24 negative to 15 negative.
It was only.
Guys, we gotta be positive.
Again, I think some of
That's
those numbers, you know, accumulatively, it's tricky to get a picture when people pay their.
What I would question, and this is just for my own edification, maybe anyone else's, it's the surplus from the sheriff's office for 38,000.
They didn't use it.
They didn't hire
It's not to pay them.
deputy that they asked for the money
In
for.
our IGA, they.
60-40 split, that's where the money, okay.
Yeah, I guess Will,
Right on.
we met before the end of the year and he said that this was the number that we were planning to pay them. And then this was the number that we were only actually gonna have to pay. And then that actually ended up being a little bit lower. And so we should be getting some back.
So we can cover 55,000
Yes.
of the estimated 78,000?
No, we're not gonna pay 78. I said that I looked back at our compensation study and that's actually a little bit too high for somebody in that position. Based on what we decided was fair.
Yeah.
So 50,000.
It's 50 to 60.
Which is Bayfield.
Does that include benefits?
The between 50 and 60 would include.
Okay.
Including benefits. Oh.
Which makes way more sense.
Not adding on 10 to 12,000 more benefits.
No, we can start somebody on low 50 and include their benefits and we'll be just fine. It'll be within that range that makes sense based on our region.
Steve, you still feel you need this?
We're getting pretty gargled. I don't know if that's that whole
Do we need to,
That is a
resetting
great-
piece.
is this?
Can we reset it? Oh, we need to reset it. Hold, please. When are we buying new audio visual?
Yeah. About dinner list.
Yeah.
Can you hear us a little bit better?
Fancy buckets for the lobby.
Is that better?
Copy.
Better. Okay, go ahead, Jim, repeat your question.
My question to you, sir, was, are you still pretty excited about this? You still want this additional employee?
I do. I think it's with the right person. It might be that we open it and we don't have that right person and we, hold and continue to post. But yeah, I think with the right person, I believe it really would increase the capacity dramatically.
And help you out with the stuff you need?
Yes.
And as me coming in new to this, one thing I'm hearing repeatedly, the history of like running through directors, staff at capacity, putting in a lot of extra hours. So, yeah, as I'm learning about, again, the history of the position, one thing I'm definitely seeing a need for this increased capacity, to make sure we're not burning out Steve and his staff.
Question about the last budget meeting. How are we looking?
Sales tax is down. Sales tax is down 15% as of December.
Again, I'm gonna remind everybody that's true and not true because our retailers, folks sometimes pay their sales tax bill in different months. So we all know we've had a pretty rough winter, right? Like without ski drawing, our businesses were really struggling. So I think we absolutely will see that. I think the 15% number is a hard, I wouldn't rely on that number to say how far down our revenue is going to be by the time we get to next budget cycle.
And we feel confident we can support this position beyond 2026?
We're going to implement the 3-day minimum for weddings over at Kendall. That's going to increase our revenue significantly. I'm sure by the time we get to budget season, we'll probably reassess what we're charging anyway. It doesn't seem to be affecting out of towners at all that we have raised the rate. And so we can talk about that too. That plus being able to pull from the Mullis fund any time that is spent up there doing work on Mullis. It is totally legal for us to pull from that fund to pay for staff.
Which is the smart direction to go.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, utilizing the enterprise fund.
Those two things combined, we should be able to sustain this long term.
I think what's important for the board to consider, right, is we always have different things we can spend money on. And so it's always a strategic decision when you decide, okay, I'm going to allocate this money to this. We've got the presentation about our lovely old lady buildings and all of the things that they need. And all the roofs we have. We've also heard from Steve in terms of capacity. I think I've kind of gone back and forth on this a lot. I think the strongest case I see is what I see has been done with the Public Works Administrative position, right? Like having someone in that role to first support John Seitz and now to support John Zarkis. Like Steve had it and was able to carry forward a major project that had been kicked down the road forever. We were able to really tighten up the USDA grant, right? Which was a $4 million grant that we had to manage that that's a big deal. And as I think of kind of, we have to invest in staff to have big projects happen. We wouldn't have a $4 million townhome project without staff, right? You can't do that. And so to do some of the big things that we want to do, I think you have to have the staff to do it. And I think there is potential. You know, Steve's absolutely right. We got the NRD funding for the Animas River Corridor project. NRD funding can't support administrative purposes, but if we have some staff that are pursuing other grants, we might be able to write administrative funding into some of that. If we're doing more of the trails and the like recreation component of it. So I think financially there are some options. It's always a little scary to me to fund a position with grants and or to fund a position. I get a little uncomfortable with us saying, oh, we've got sheriff's surplus. It's like, yeah, but we don't know if that's going to happen next year. But I do think that the value that gets added by investing in this department, both one, deferred maintenance of having a person that can do the stuff too, and just grant man. I mean, as Steve and I worked on the NRD stuff, I was like, we don't have the capacity to manage all this money. If we're talking about a $5 million project that ARC could be, I mean, Elizabeth brings great ability and Gloria managed a lot of our grants, but to do big projects that this community asks for, we need staff to do them. Yes. You don't have to raise your hand.
I'm raising my hand.
You have for 6 years. You don't have to raise your hand.
I do it quietly over here. Behind my monitor. Would this individual be able to be shared with other departments when needed?
We all do that.
Administrator, anything for everybody?
Oh, yes, I was.
All job descriptions, Jim, other duties as needed.
All under here.
I mean, I agree.
Oh,
The
okay.
grant writing is like it's like necessary disposition, provide professional grant writing and administration and compliance oversight. Cause I think like one of the, we were thinking about Kendall and raising the rates and 3-day minimums. It's like, well, that's, for capital improvements. And so we move some of that money, then how are we going to, repair Kendall? And maybe there's.
Well, and the hope that we would be able to find somebody very much like Stuart, who is capable of doing work out in the field with Steve and working on capital improvements rather than having to contract somebody in Durango to come up and do it.
Yeah.
And then also having someone who can sit at the computer and focus on grant management and be able to go up to Mullis and dig a ditch if we need them to dig a ditch, like a very multi-purpose.
A unicorn. A unicorn.
Town full of unicorns.
That's something a lot of people are looking for in their work in general, and we can pitch it the right way, we might get some good applicants.
Yeah, spend some time outside.
Time outside, time inside.
So I'm hearing, is there distinct opposition? Would anybody like to make a pitch that like, oh, we just can't afford this, don't want to do it. I want to fix our lovely ladies with that money.
I get nervous about the full-time thing. Just knowing this, like last year was so hard, like budget season was so hard, cutting so many things and not being able to invest in a position like this. But if you feel like we're in a good place.
I'm pretty
Okay.
Good place,
Huh?
a really good place.
I'm feeling really good, Ron, I promise.
She's our treasurer too.
Yeah.
Not just of the HOA.
Boards now.
I was really excited when I did figure this out, because that was what you asked me in the finance committee, was to figure out how to make it sustainable past 1 year. And I was like, yeah, you're right, that's kind of scary. How are we gonna figure out how to do this past 1 year? And when I polled and when I talked to Steve and he asked about Mullis, I was like, oh, yeah, that's another great option. And let's make sure it's legal, and it is, so.
Yeah. And this was, I mean, Ron, you had a very valid point that this was not an original budget estimate, but it was in our budget line items. So Gloria had that at the top of like compensation adjustments and facilities and parks manager position. Again, is something that previously existed. And again, I think the public works admin coordinator is a great example. My encouragement would be, let's have a pretty high bar on that hiring. Like, let's make sure we get the right person, Steve, that you really feel confident that whoever you hire is the person that has that sweet spot of skills. to get what we need. Okay, I'm not hearing opposition, so I think there's staff direction to move forward.
Yep.
Post it, public position, great. Okay, all right, moving on to the added agenda item of 7F. Again, it breaks my heart to add this agenda item, but I'm gonna go ahead and read this letter to the community. I want it in the public, be transparent, and I think this letter outlines kind of what the process has been for our family and where we are moving forward. So this is regarding the resignation of Mayor Dana Krinker. Dear Silverton Board of Trustees and Silverton community, with a heavy heart, I'm writing to submit my resignation as mayor of the town of Silverton, effective April 14th, 2026. My family has made the hard decision to leave Silverton and move to Durango this summer, different schooling options for our children, especially as our oldest son enters high school next year. Silverton School has been a special experience for our 3 boys over the past 6 years, but will not meet our boys' future needs. We have loved living in Silverton and being part of the community, and we feel sad and disappointed to leave this unique place. While our family will be staying several more months, I decided to step away from the mayor role during our family's time of transition. The community deserves a new leader to carry your vision forward, and you are in good hands with new board leadership, Elizabeth Stuffings as town administrator and town staff. My last meeting as mayor will be April 13th. After the new board members are seated, the new board will have several procedural options for replacing me, such as appointing an interim mayor from the town board members or community, or holding a special election. Our town attorney will provide guidance. Serving as town trustee and then mayor in Silverton remains one of the most rewarding and meaningful experiences of my life. In the 4 years since I started serving at Town Hall, the board has initiated many important projects and priorities and accomplished big things for a small town. You all have taught me so much, and I stand extremely proud of our achievements, including, get ready for the list, been a busy years. We finalized and adopted a community-led master plan after an extensive community engagement process. We built an EC Park, a new community asset and the first town building constructed in 20 years. We created and adopted a Silverton-specific land use code that supports the vision in the master plan. To address housing, we established the Silverton Housing Authority, a unique effort to respond to the community's demand for more housing, and we annexed Anvil, a plan in the making for 20 years. We acquired land for housing through the Zanoni parcel purchase and built the Anvil townhomes. In just a few short years, Anvil has grown to a vibrant neighborhood full of year-round local residents. While our job on housing is not finished, we have accomplished so much. We pursued funding for long overdue Blair Street improvements, supported Main Street programming for local businesses, formed partnerships to address energy resiliency, attracted broadband companies to install high-speed fiber residential internet service, which we didn't have before, and supported local nonprofits and town events during a time of instability after COVID. We invested in brownfield cleanup projects, planned for the community-driven perimeter trail, pursued significant funding to implement the 20-year vision of the Animas River Corridor project, and continue to make progress on the RMPP land transfer with the Bureau of Land Management. My biggest regret is that will probably not happen before April. We have navigated tricky issues like wetlands mapping, refuse management, human-wildlife conflict, fee increases, enterprise fund solvency, and budget constraints. The current board made hard decisions to pass a balanced budget 2 years in a row and address the long overdue fee and administration structure for water, sewer, and trash to promote fairness and sustainability. We increased the trust and civility in Town Hall and built new organizational infrastructure through financial policies, standard operating procedures, employee handbooks, and investment in town staff. We raised the level of service and expectation at Town Hall and now see big projects managed and completed. We've managed over $8 million in projects through the Anvil Townhomes and the sewer relining project alone, and have begun planning for our critical wastewater treatment project. These successes demonstrate the hard work and thoughtfulness of town leadership and staff and the vision of the community. Silverton stands as a beautiful example of democracy at work. Community members engaging in and driving the vision, elected officials setting priorities from the community's vision, and town staff implementing the vision. I want to thank the Silverton community for trusting me in this role. I owe much of my success to former town administrator Gloria Koshberger and acknowledge her hard work and dedication to Silverton. I thank our regional partners like San Juan County, Region 9, and San Juan Development Association for their partnership and our success. And finally, I also remain forever grateful for the dedication and friendship of my fellow town board members. Finally, I'm thankful to my family who've endured many hours of town meetings and events, missed family dinners, and long conversations about town priorities. Many opportunities and challenges remain for Silverton, and I'm grateful to have been part of this special community. You have everything you need to succeed with your new leadership. I ask you all to keep showing up, direct the vision, pay attention to the business that happens at Town Hall, and continue to shape the future of your town and community. I will never forget you all, and I wish you a bright future. With love and hope. Thank you for giving me the chance to serve. Clayton, I do have a procedural question for you. Does the Board of Trustees have to take any action with my letter?
No, it's your position. It's a voluntary resignation. So there's no resolution or vote that needs to take place. Every trustee, as well as the mayor, is free to resign their position as a trustee or mayor at their discretion. And so the only action that they will need to take is we will need to do a written resolution on your last day as mayor, because there's a 60-day clock that's going to run. And in that 60-day time period, the board has to either determine to hold a special election and or appoint someone to take your position. But that won't happen tonight. That'll happen on April 13th. If that's your last day as mayor, I will have that resolution prepared. I'll coordinate with Elizabeth, and we'll make sure that the resolution is there for the board to sign. Just memorializing the 60-day clock will start on that day.
Great, thank you.
I have a
Again, I
question.
care about process, yeah.
Is that new board gonna appoint a new mayor, or are they gonna appoint another board member and then vote for a mayor?
It's a good question. Clayton, do you want to just clarify the options that will be before the board on that date?
Sure. So when a person leaves, their position is open. So the board can do it many different ways. I'll give you the two most likely scenarios that I see playing out. You can appoint someone to be mayor until the next regular election from the board. And then you can request applications for whoever is appointed from the board, because that'll be a trustee application at that point. You can decide that you're going to appoint a mayor from the general population, and you can request applications from the public and appoint a member that way, and that member will become the mayor, or that applicant will become the mayor, and then they will serve out the time as mayor until the next regular election. Typically, I shouldn't say typically. What I've seen historically is it's people appoint a mayor from the existing trustees, just because it's someone who typically will have experience as a trustee that understands what the chairperson does, what the mayor's authorities are and are not. And then that person internally, a trustee, gets moved into the mayor's position, and then they advertise to fill the trustee position. These are just options. I'm not suggesting you do one way or the other. That's completely a board decision.
Thanks, Clayton.
Thank you.
Or we can have a special election, right?
Or you can have a special election, Clayton?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that when I started, I said you could have a special election. If you chose to have, to not appoint a mayor, then you could set a special election, and you could have a normal elective process where anyone who wants to apply, including trustees, could put their name on the ballot and let the town vote for the new mayor. That will
Special
happen at a
elections.
regular election anyway. And so
I'm
but the
just-
special election
So
will
elections are-
have a longer
All the
clock.
options out there? Cause I think, I'm sorry, I actually won't say anything.
Lots of conversation about special elections and how expensive they are, how they go. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Typically,
again,
that's
yeah, go ahead.
typically a special election is only done, and I'll say this, if the board cannot come to a consensus for an appointment.
Mm.
Because they're not taking over your term, they're just taking over the position until the next regular election.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of times, yeah, the special election, you do it, and then there's like 6 months, that you would have had to have waited to just do a regular election.
Thanks, Clayton. So no action needed. You can't reject my resignation letter. Rejected. It's been an honor and a privilege. I had really say it's been so much fun. And it will be hard to move on, but we're not far south. I will be a strong advocate down there for this community. All right, come find me if you want to have coffee. All right, moving on to discussion and direction items. We don't have anything under this item. And do we have any committee reports on agenda item 9? Any committees meet? Good.
Good.
I think
We met before.
I think we met before the 23rd, right?
Did we already meet as public utility committee? Before last meeting? Yeah, okay, so we're good.
Yeah. Yep. Utility.
Wait, didn't we report on it last meeting?
Wasn't that before the 23rd?
Oh, wait a minute, no, it was on the 25th.
Yeah.
Oh, so the
okay.
day, oh,
The day
right.
after.
It was.
The day after.
Utility committee, take it away. Utility committee.
Good.
Why is everyone?
Come on, Dawn.
A lot of updates.
Talked about meters, we talked about
Yeah, getting to water meters
if we were.
was a lot of up.
We're building our rate structure, and that will be coming here pretty soon.
Just trash.
Yeah, trash issues.
Did the camera roll out?
Well, before we get on we did water and we also did, gave direction on how to think about who's been paying their water bill. I'm trying to find the notes of our large amount that has not been paid. And so figuring out next steps.
I have also heard from a recurring senior citizen that her water bill is incorrect.
There's 53 accounts with a minimum of $500. Outstanding, that is correct.
Yeah.
49.
And 49 owing over 1,000.
Yes.
And do we have verification that that billing is accurate? Again, I'm just letting you know what I got accosted for at senior lunch, passing on the information.
What I have seen and everything, those amounts are accurate. Yes. So it's for future discussion on how to move forward with some of that.
Yeah.
We talked about the per diem and the operator responsible charge, which is high priority, and we passed that. We discussed it and approved it and thought it was a great idea. Discussed the transfer station cameras and the grant, implementing the grant with the I guess potential of having a town employee over there.
Yep, and we also did discuss in that one, implementation, and I'll be doing a resolution for those proposed rate increases for the transfer station.
And then when people hear rate increases, they kind of freak out. We're talking especially for kind of like
Washers, dryers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's not basic, it's not,
Tires, furniture, appliances.
Which we've had these fees before, but they have just, it's
Not been collected.
not being collected.
And then we also discussed the items we don't
Right?
take.
Is that not?
yes.
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 Okay, great.
And going back on that, I must have ruffled a few feathers because we're starting to get a few of those tickets that people, there's what they're supposed to be doing, kindly doing for us.
Because that's the goal.
That's the goal, to cut down on hauled out of here and what we are charged overall.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, utility committee. That's an important committee.
This one wasn't show and tell, but we usually get show and tell of water meters, so next time.
And it's funny because I've actually got vendors coming in tomorrow. I've got another one coming in next week for meters. The word is out that we're in the market for meters. And everybody is,
Traveling salesman.
and everybody is knocking at my door. And so, let them do their song and dance.
Oh my gosh, before I forget, John, sorry, I know this probably isn't a meeting thing, but I have a friend who works down outside of Durango, and they're doing a big water meter replacement too. And they're getting a bunch of guys to come up. Gosh, what's the nice golf course?
Glacier?
Glacier. So they have around 700 meters as well. And they're doing a big replacement. So they're working with a really good vendor and said they could put us in touch.
Have them, give them my name and number,
Yeah,
please.
okay, gosh, can't forget that.
So,
Met a guy on a bike ride. He was like, oh, I'm talking about water meters.
Great. The joys of this job. Good. Anything else from utility committee? Any other committees meet? I don't think so. Oh, okay, great. All right, open discussion, future agenda items. Anything for the good of the order? Ron, you got a list?
good night.
It's only 10 to 7.
10 to 8.
10 to 8.
Daylight savings.
Time change.
Daylight savings, gotcha.
All right. Discussion? No? Okay, all right, we'll end with public comment. We don't have any in-person public comment, so we'll go to Zoom public comment. If you are online and you'd like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button. We'll promote you to panelist. And you'll have 3 minutes. My loud timer.
Hey, it's Melody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Dana, I want to thank you for all the time you've put in. You've been very creative and helpful. And that's going to be a high standard for whoever comes next. I was sitting here thinking about how you find another mayor. And the only way I've never seen happen here is putting all the rest of the citizens' names in a hat and picking one. That's a joke.
Blinks, wouldn't it?
Thank you, Melody. I will miss hearing your voice at town meetings. Any other public comment?
So we should do it.
All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment. The time is 7:53. I'll adjourn this meeting.
There were some ancient Greek city states that fixed leaders.